Hey guys, sorry I'm late posting. Time just gets away from me. I'm so sorry. But this is Getting to Know Your mySewnet Software Lesson 11, and we are going to be covering cross stitch today. So we're going to go ahead and open up our mySewnet software. And once we get to the main page, we're going to choose cross stitch. Okay, once we do that, a wizard will open. And we're going to choose the first one, Create Quick Cross Design. Now, you've heard me say before that using the Quick Create or the Express Design Wizard and things like that doesn't make a really good design. However, with using the Quick Cross Design, it really does. It works really well. I really like it. It turns out really good. So we're going to choose that top one, Create Quick Cross Design, and we're going to go ahead and click on Next. All right, and we're going to go ahead and choose Load a Picture. And we're going to use the samples, and the samples are going to be into your documents. And then mySewnet somewhere, all this mess is. And then samples again, or it might pop up for you, and then cross stitch. KRZ is what a cross stitch design saves as. KRZ sampler is going to be designs that are samples of KRZ's designs, and pics is what we're going to go with. Okay, so here are some pictures. This one is an actual chart, so we are going to mess with that one in a minute, but first we're going to skip the little girl and we're going to go to this small house, and we're going to say okay. Okay, so here's this cute little house. It's got some weird textures and things. I'm not 100% sure why this is in here. But we'll hit next. That's all fine. Next again. Okay, so here's where the wizard comes in. So it says the cross size is 2 millimeters. You can change the size. So 2 millimeters is going to be a good stitch. It's going to look like a cross stitch when you look visibly at it. Anything larger is going to it'll still look like a cross, but it's going to look not as good. And anything smaller is going to be really tiny. The smaller the cross size, the more detail. The larger the cross size, the less detail. What's a cross? Right now, the design is going to be 200 by 200. The way we figure this is that 2 millimeters divided by or multiplied by the width across. So if you want a design that was 200 millimeters across, you would divide 200 millimeters by 2 to get your width, your crosses across or down. You can check proportional or unproportional. I'm going to increase this to 130, which is going to make it 260 by 260. And if you notice, that does give you a little bit more detail when you do that. We're going to say next again. Now, this says 35 colors. If you change that to say 50 and choose apply, you're going to get even more detail. So the more colors, the more detail you get. Okay, once you did that, you'd say next, and it would show you kind of what it's going to look like. We are going to go back. I don't really care for this one. Oops. And we're going to load a different picture. We're going to use this one just so you can, well, all right, we're going to go with the little girl. We're going to do load pic. Oops, say okay. Go next. There she is, next. Okay, so right now she's 220 by 260, which is a little bit bigger than what you can do. So we're going to do 100. That gives you that 200 across. So a lot less detail. If you have the bigger machines, you can actually do 130, which is going to give you one heck of a design. It really is. So we're going to go ahead and use this. So it's going to be 260 by 308, which still will fit in the hoop that the Epics can do, or the Ruby 90. Okay, 11 colors. Obviously, that is not a pretty picture with 11 colors, so I'm going to up that to 20. The reason I picked 20 is I'm willing to do 20 color changes, much more than that, and I'm not a whole bunch. So let's go up 5 more. Let's do 25 and see if there's any real difference. It does clear it up a little bit. All right, so 25. This is a very important number. If you are not willing to change the color 25 times, I don't recommend choosing 25. You're going to get the best design with the most colors. If you look, if you do 35, she almost looks spot on. I, however, would not take the time to do that. 25 is my max. So we'll leave it at 25. All right, then we're going to hit next. The cross stitch wizard does put in the background. There is no way for you to get rid of the background per se. It will automatically put it in there. Even if it's white, it will put it in there. We're going to say finish. This is going to fill your entire 260 by, well, 360 hoop with basically stitching. Every bit of this is stitched from edge to edge. And as you can tell, it looks really good. And if we do life view, it looks darn good. I almost believe that it looks better than photo stitch sometimes. I did expand my screen, so it's a little bit better. Okay, so let's say that you wanted her, but you didn't want to do that background. That was just, to you, a waste of stitches. You could go into the create and you could choose erase, and you could do this cross flood fill. Choose that, and then you're going to click on that background, and it's going to take that background away. So now it's just going to be her. It's not going to have that background to it. And if you use a canvas or even Ada cloth, you'll see the crosses in the background, or you'll look at the fabric in the background and it'll look pretty good. Okay, so that's a way of doing that. And you could then export this design and you could stitch it out and you would have a beautiful design. If you look, there is a ton of different stuff up here. We are going to get to that. I'm going through the standard wizard first. Pattern is just that, as a pattern if you wanted to do something like that. And then your view. You can remove the background. So then you can see, I don't know if you guys can see it, but it looks like the Ada cloth behind her. You can get the length. You can change the grid to every square gets a grid. Every 5 squares gets a grid. Every 10, and then no grid at all. I do recommend the grid. I generally run mine at 5, depending on what I'm doing. There's also some different views. You can do block view, where it just shows you the block. When I do block view, I will do all grid squares, and I'll zoom in so that I can see every one of those blocks. 2D view, it's going to put her not in crosses, but in just filled blocks. Let me zoom in so you can see that. So it does do, the block view is the one that does this. 2D view gives actual little crosses, and then 3D mode makes them look more like a stitch cross. I'm going to switch to 3D view, and I'm going to zoom out for them to fit hoop. And this would be what she looked like. If I wanted to change any of these colors, it's just like normal. I could take this, and if I didn't have pastel blue, I could choose a blue close to that color. I could, oops. I was hoping that would put me back, but it didn't. You can change the blue, and you can see where it is. If you hover over the colors, it shows you where that color is. So like her little shirt is that color and that color. So if I wanted to make her a pink shirt, I could come in here and choose that pink. And then this pink, I could do a little bit darker. And so I could start changing, and I could just keep looking for those colors. And I could change her entire shirt to a different color depending on what I wanted to do. However, if you notice, it also changes in her eyes. Now, we're going to undo that so I can show you how to not do that. Oops. Okay, so let's say I wanted, so I don't like that blue in her eyes. So do you see that blue in her eyes? I don't like that. That really to me should be white. And I do not have any white colors on here. So I can actually come in here and I can add a color. And I can do a white and say, okay. It's going to default me to stitching that white. So I'm going to come in here to create. I'm going to go to full cross and I'm going to undo erase. And I'm going to change these in her eyes to be actually white. So even though it was created, see, and to me that looks much better. I don't like that blue. And her little pin, you know, maybe I'd want it a different color than her shirt. So I can come in here and I can edit and make different changes. Like her nose. I'm not really fond of that red in her nose. Granted, when you stitch it out, it kind of looks a little different. But what I can do again is I'd want this to be maybe more this color next to it. Because if you look back there, it is practically the same color. So what I can do is I can come up here to the top left and I can click on the color and I do pick a color. And I want to pick this color right here, this kind of beige color. And then I can click that and I can turn it that beige color. That one, that works. And then this one, I want to be that color. So again, I'm going to come up here to this left. I'm going to do pick a color. I'm going to grab that color and I'm going to click that X and I'm going to make it that color. Okay, so let's zoom out. To me, that looks better. It doesn't look like she has acne on her nose with that bright red color. So I get rid of that. In her mouth, I might want to do the same thing. Instead of having this beige in her mouth, I might want to have this pink color. See, it's actually a lighter pink. So I could come in here and I could look and be like, you know, I don't really have a light pink. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to add a color. And I want to add it to maybe a lighter pink with this color. Say okay. And then I'm going to change these to a lighter pink. Anywhere where I see that weird beige color in her mouth, I'm going to add that light pink. Now let's see. See, I think that looks better. It adds those little highlights to her lips, but doesn't, you know, make it look bad. And again, we can always go to live view. And her mouth looks to me better. I would really probably clean up her mouth a lot. But for the most part, it really looks good. And again, guys, when it stitches out, it looks phenomenal. It really does. Okay, so we've got her hair and we've done some of that. This little hair down here seems out of place, so I can delete it. So I just go back to erase and just click on it and get rid of some of this, oops, that I don't like. If you were doing something and you, oops, I messed up, instead of coming up here and clicking erase, you can right click on your mouse and just drag over it and it will erase it. And it's just click and drag for this. Click once, and you can delete. Right click and you can delete. Okay, so we've kind of gone over how to insert a photo into there and kind of make a few changes. So let's move on. So we're going to go to new, and no, we're not going to change picture to Lynette. And this is her name. All right, so now we did the quick one, but now we're going to load a picture for a new cross stitch design. You may be wondering when you want to use these two different things. Create a quick cross design is generally used when you have an actual image, not a cross stitch pattern or a cross stitch design. It is used for like a photo, a JPEG, any kind of image that does not already have crosses or blocks added to it. Load picture for new cross stitch design is different. So we're going to hit next. We're going to go load picture. So we're loading a picture again. And this time we're going to use this chart. And we're going to say, okay. Now this is what you would normally see if you were doing an actual cross stitch pattern and you wanted to add the cross stitch pattern. If you tried to put this in through using the other way, it would actually kind of mess up because it has these weird little markings in there. So it wouldn't make a lot of sense. But we're going to do this way, and we're going to say next. We're going to leave that all exactly like that is because it's going to go edge to edge, and we're going to hit next. Okay, so right now the width crosses are 154 by 154, and that makes us a very large design. We don't want that large design. Now, obviously, this is a square, and each one of these big squares is 5. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. So this is actually 50 crosses or 50 squares across and down. So if I change this number to 50, this is going to be the design size that it was created at because this is a cross stitch pattern, and this cross stitch pattern was designed using 50 squares across and 50 squares high. So your width is 50 and your height is 50. So if you're using a chart, you are going to measure or count how many squares across and how many squares down. So across is your width and down is your height. We're going to leave the cross size as 2 millimeters because this is going to be standard. And that's going to give me a hoop size of 100 by 100. So this is a fairly small design. You could make it bigger, but that would alter the way the design was created. If you want to stitch out the design exactly how the cross stitch was created in your book, in your head, wherever you got the design, this is the way you do it. And we're going to say finish. And that is going to pop up my design on my screen. Okay, guys. So this design does not incorporate half crosses and all of that. We are actually going to add those in. All right, so this is where cross stitch gets really fun for me. This is actually kind of relaxing when I've had a really stressful day or something. You know, sometimes I just want to play with things, and I'll go get a cross stitch design. I'm actually working on a Christmas stocking, and I'll just get my touch screen and fold it over my laptop that folds over, and I can use it as a touch screen. And I actually will just touch these versus doing it. So first thing we're going to do is we need to choose our color. And our first color is going to be this, we'll do this yellow color, this bright yellow color. So again, I'm going to choose the color. Now blue is going to stay because I want to pick the color using the design. So I'm going to choose pick a color, and I am going to come in here and I am going to grab that yellow, and it's going to pull up the closest thread color to that yellow. I'm going to say, okay. All right, so I have my full cross selected, and I'm going to basically just start filling in my design. Now, anything that has a line through it or is missing, I'm going to leave that out, and I'll show you why in a minute. So we're going to just come in here, and you can click and drag. You can frame it. You can kind of frame it out. Now, remember, if it's blocked by that, don't click on it yet. Okay, so I've made a frame. So inside of here, I can come do this cross flood fill, and I can click on that, and it's going to fill that in. It's up to you how you do it. If you want to just sit here and keep going, you can. It does take a while. I'm not going to lie. This design is pretty simple, and it's still taking me a minute to do this, but I'm trying to get to a point here. Okay. Okay, and then I'm going to fill that in. Okay, so there's my side. Now, this design was created using a back stitch around it. And it kind of, if you click on that, it does that, just FYI. So don't click on just random things. So like if I were just to click on that, it doesn't recognize the yellow. I just kind of want to show you guys that. Okay, so see how I could actually fill in this a little bit more? And you can do that by doing the half crosses and the quarter crosses. And what that means is, so this one right here, if I came in here and I chose quarter cross, I would click on this corner and it's going to put that there. And I can do one here, and I can do one here, and here, and here. Let me zoom in so you guys can see this a little better. I'm gonna zoom in right here. Okay, so what I've done is I've chosen quarter cross. And the concept I'm going for is I want to fill in as close to this outline as possible. So because the original design just didn't have that, I'm adding these quarter crosses. And when you do that, when I add this back stitch line, it's going to fill in really nicely. And you can also make a full cross because I think that one should be a full cross. Okay, that one's good. So that all looks good. That one I'm going to leave. This one, I think I'm going to do a full cross. So I'm going to grab a full cross really quick. Come in here with that. Quarter cross again. And you're clicking in the corner to add that cross. Okay? So any corner, I'm going to come out here. Any corner you click on adds that. And don't forget, right click makes it, and it'll turn itself into a full cross as well. And you can also take away crosses. Okay, so this side is pretty much done. And I've got the crosses the way I wanted. I added the quarter crosses. You can do mini crosses. I'm not a big fan of mini crosses. You can do French knots. So if you wanted to come in here and this is a ribbon, if you wanted to add French knots to it, you could. Okay. So we've got this one side done, and I want to show you now how to do, so also you have your half crosses. So if I didn't want to do this back stitch line, I am going to do the back stitch line. But if I didn't want to do the back stitch line, I could click this and I could actually make, and then I could take this, oops, put that back. And then I could do quarter cross and erase, and I could do that quarter. So that it does this. And I could actually use this instead of, oops, I'm on erase. No erase. And you have to unselect erase. And each time you want to do something, you do have to keep it. So you got to make sure. You also have to make sure which direction you're going. And then I could come in here and I could do this so that it would make a nice smooth outline all over it. But that defeats the purpose of what we're doing. Okay, so I am going to do this, and I am going to erase that quarter cross. I don't like that. And I'm going to do that too. And that. Okay, all right, so now I'm going to do the standard back stitch. Standard back stitch allows you to go point to point, but we do need to add a color. So we're going to click on here, and we're going to do it, add a color. Now, it has this really weird brown color. I like black on my background, or my back, so I'm going to do black. Okay, so standard back stitch. We're just going to click and drag. And when you click and drag, it creates, oops, so I'm going to undo. Wow. Do remember, if you undo, it does the whole thing. Okay, notice that this isn't actually the way, and you can't get it to go any other way besides an angle. So you'll have to switch to freehand backstitch. Freehand backstitch is going to let me get this exact angle so that I can get those angles that aren't perfect. And then I'm going to switch back to standard, and I'm going to keep going. And I'm going to go until it is the point. Okay, so see how that's now getting off, because this is no longer standard. So I'm going to delete, I'm going to right click on that line to delete it, and I'm going to switch to freehand backstitch. This time I'm going to click and I'm going to drag. Okay, so I'm going to stop here, because once I drag, when it starts getting off, oh, that's still pretty good. But see, it kind of gets off there. So we're going to stop here. I'm going to let go. Okay, Then I'm going to pick back up here at this angle. And I'm going to go to here. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out. And so I've now added this back stitch. Everything is looking really good. We're going to go ahead and do the light view. See how nice? Now, there looks like there's a piece that's hanging out. Let's zoom in there. Oh, yep. So right there is a piece hanging out. So we're going to cancel, and we're going to zoom into that area. Oops. Oops. Okay, I totally screwed that one up. Zoom to rectangle. And then I'm going to go to my freehand, and I'm going to finish this line right here. Okay, so that is that one that is off. So I'm going to go to erase, and I'm going to come in here. Oops. Okay, that's the other thing. When you choose erase, you have to choose what it wants to erase, and we're going to do that quarter cross. So we're going to come in here and remove that one. And I think that's going to look much better. Okay. So we've now done our yellow, and we have part of our bell done. So you would just keep going. You would click on this, you would add another color. Oops, cancel. You would click on this, you would pick a color, and we could do this pretty pink right here. And that would choose your color. You would say okay, and you would just continue as you were. You would turn off erase, hit full crosses, and you would just simply start filling in your pattern again. And you would do this until you were done, and then you would do file, export, and you could stitch out your design. And that's pretty much it. Pretty easy, right? Okay, so we're gonna go and we're gonna do new again. And no, we don't want to save chart. We don't want to save it. And we are now going to do, okay, so load existing cross stitch design. That would be if I had saved this as a KRZ design, I could load it using this. Start a new cross stitch design with no picture. Next. We're going to choose what it is. So this is a canvas of 100 by 100. So we're going to do a canvas of 200 by 200 because I want a little bigger space to show you some things. Okay, finish. Okay. So I do want to change my blue. I'm going to change it to this pretty coral color, and I'm going to say, okay. So that's going to change that color because I wanted to change my color because I can change it like that. All right, so let's go over a few things. So the home tab, because this is us being creative all in our own way. We're going to create our own design from scratch is what we're basically doing here. We have no picture. We could have a graph next to us, and we could use this just like we were doing it on actual tablecloth with the cross stitch. We could do actual counted cross stitch. You could use your grid to make it a little bigger, and this would give you sections of 5. So you could simply just use your own grid or your own book full of cross stitch designs and do that. Okay, so on your home screen, you have your copy or paste, your cut, duplicate, everything you normally do, rotate 90 degrees, remove unused colors. So remember how we had that weird blue on there? I could always come back here and remove unused colors to get rid of it, or when you export it, it automatically goes away. Hide crosses, hide backstitch, hide knots, display everything. It shows you your design properties. It says the cross size is 2 millimeters. You can select your hoop. My design area is 200 by 200. It does default to its own hoop. If you select its hoop, it's going to change these sizes. Thread count crosses, it's using 2 threads. Backstitch is using 2 threads. Top thread direction is backwards, so you can change that to forward so your cross goes the other way. And you can set all these as default. Okay. Create, that's where we have been going. This is where we get all of our really fun things so we can do our full crosses. So when you do your full crosses, left click places your crosses on there, right click removes your crosses or your selected item. Quarter crosses, that puts the little ones, and you can kind of use it as a back stitch, and then you could delete it as well. And again, if I delete, it's only, so if I do a full cross, we're going to do full crosses real quick. Okay. and then I want to erase, but I'm on quarter cross. Let me zoom in because you got to see this. If I'd been doing full crosses and I switched to quarter cross and I saw something I didn't like, I saw a cross that I didn't want on there, but I hit erase, but I didn't change, I'm only going to get quarter crosses. If I want a full cross erased, I have to choose a full cross. This has to be anything that's going to erase, whether you use erase or right click, whatever is selected is what it's going to delete. Again, we already did some of these forward and then back. You can cross your own, or you can just go the opposite direction. Mini crosses, again, those are little tiny ones in the corners, and whatever corner you choose. And it does give a different pattern. It will never change to a cross. Like when we do quarter crosses, if we do each corner, if we do each corner, it turns to a cross. Mini crosses do not turn to big crosses. Half width cross that makes little tiny ones, and two together makes a full cross, or it doesn't make a full cross, it just fills in that square. And you can do it the opposite side as well. And this kind of gives you a different look. Standard back stitch, we already went over that. Let me change my color. You do that. Outline, you can do it together and do that. So when you're switching, you can switch, okay? Okay. We did that freehand back stitch. Again, you can drag it to how you want it so that it goes. Sometimes I wonder about things. Okay. French knot, again, you can make little French knots and you can pretty much put them wherever you want. Cross flood fill, anything that's already blocked off, if you click it, it will fill. Pattern flood fill, same thing. It'll put a pattern in. So the pattern selected is going to be over here on pattern. And if you see, it puts like what looks like a brick wall. It's really kind of cool. So we're going to undo that. You can do smooth. Oops. Make sure that when you do smooth, it'll kind of smooth it out. Draw shape. You can draw a freehand point line and you could draw and then right click and it fills that option in. You can place a shape and it'll fill it in. And these things, okay, I figured out what these were. These are for this shape. So these only affect the shape. So it put my fill and my outline in that. So if I didn't have an outline, it would just, and I did place shape, it would not do it with an outline. Or if I did no fill and only outline, oops, it would just do the outline. Okay, and you do have multiple shapes. Okay, we're going to go home real quick, and I'm going to select all visible, and I'm going to delete. Okay, create again, multiply. Okay, guys, this is really kind of fun. So we have not gone over the draw window yet, really. And in the draw window, you have this option. And this is super cool. It's also like, I think we did this in Encore as well. Maybe? I think so. Something similar. Okay, use multiply. So we can do like basically a mandala effect. We can mirror. We can do flip, so reflect. You can do, and then to me, this is what I would consider a mandala. So it's going to put these things, these little grids on here, and whatever I do in one of these sections is going to populate in all the sections. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to place. And you can just keep going. And you can just okay. And then once you have your shape, and it's from any section. I'll try to connect these. And again, you can go as slow as or as more defined as you want it to. You can also come in here and do this with a line, and then you can fill it in. So then I can go back to create, and I can change my color to this peachy color, and I can do crossfill. And I can fill in different things. I can also come in here and clean it up. Like if you wanted to clean something up, if you wanted to add a cross to it, like if you wanted this to be a little bit, and it still continues on. So anything you do from this point on, it will alter it. So once I got my shape done, I can be like, you know what? I really want to make this more a certain way. And you can put them on top of each other. So like if I wanted something in here, another type of shape, I can put it inside of it, just right over it. And you don't have to delete anything. You can go right over the top. Then you can add another color. We'll do this with green, not that this is pretty. And we can do cross fill, and you can fill this in and this in. Anyway, so the mandala or the multiply one is a lot of fun, and I have done some really cool mandala cross stitch designs to do this. So, oops, undo, create, get off that full. Okay. And undo is your best friend a lot of times. But this does not stop until you tell it to. So once I do say stop using that, then I'm back to just normal and I can just do whatever. Okay, so I'm going to go home. I'm going to select all visible and I'm going to delete this. And then we're going to go to letters. Okay, letters is super cool. Again, it's a fixed font, which is anything that is built in. They just basically choose what you want, type in the name or whatever you want, and it's going to put it in, and then you can move it to wherever you want. I do want to tell you one thing. If you move the design off of the grid of your canvas and you click off of it, it will delete that part off. It won't come back, or it won't just stay out here like a normal embroidery design. It actually just gets rid of it. So just an FYI. True type font, this allows you to change what font you want. So all those built-in fonts that you have in your computer, so not the ones in the software, but the ones that are stored in your computer, you can grab one of those. You can choose its size. I'm going to make this bigger. And then you can say, if you want an outline or whatever, and say apply. And that's going to put it out there. Some fonts work better than others. Beyond Wonderland is really cool, but it does not seem to do well as that. Let's see if I have another one. Let's try, I use this one all the time. Let's see what happens. Apply. That's kind of a nice little font. But again, I could type out my whole name and say apply, and it'll stitch it out for you. So the letter in this is a lot of fun. You have so many choices. You can do whatever you want. It's a lot of fun. Pattern. This is what we were discussing. Remember when that break happened? You can choose a pattern. Let's choose this one, and we're going to go home. We're going to select all visible, delete. We're going to go to create, and we've done that pattern. So I'm going to do pattern flood fill, and I'm going to click on that, and that's going to put that pattern in there. With this pattern, I kind of like this pattern. It's stitched, but what you could do is you could come in here and grab the full cross, and you could add crosses in here, and then your quarter crosses in here. Oops. Hold on, I gotta zoom in. This is way too small. So I'm gonna delete that one. Full cross, put that back. Okay, and then I'd want to do crop one here, one here. Do that the same thing here and here and here and here. So you can use this pattern to get you started, and then you can add so much to it. You could do this in some kind of pattern or whatever, and then you could come in here and you could add your name to the pattern. But you can do all that. And there's different ones. Octagon 2, I think is going to be bigger. So select all visible, delete. Create, we're on Octagon 2. Now we're going to pattern fill. Yeah, so that one's a little bit bigger pattern. And there's just quite a bit of different patterns. This one's kind of cool. Go home, select all visible, delete. You could probably just go ahead and cover it over it. And then you could do this one. And you can actually use this to literally fill in your squares or whatever you wanted to do. So that would be your pattern. Okay, I think we've gone over everything. View, we did the view. Let's do new again. No. Let's load a picture of her cross stitch design one more time. Load a picture. Okay. So let's say you took a picture of the pattern that you had. So this was in a book and you took a picture of it. And see how it's not square? We can say next. So now what you want to do is you want to make this so that this is the only thing you see. So we're going to zoom in. Oops. Okay. And then I'm going to go grab this corner. Maybe. There it is. Okay. And I basically want to put that corner on there. So I want to zoom in some more because this is kind of what I'm trying to get at. Okay. So here is, okay. So there it is. And I want to put this on this corner. But if I do that, everything else is not straight. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to move it in. Oops. To here. Okay, and as you can see, if I put that one there, it doesn't. But there's this little button right here, this perspective correction. If you click on that, it lets you change your perspective. So then it allows you to get these red handles in order to come in here and grab this. Okay, and then I'm going to zoom in so I can get these zigzag. Okay, so then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put these exactly where I need them. So that one's going to go there, and this one over here, and I'm going to put this one here. And then I'm going to scroll down to this one and put it here. Scroll over to here and put this one here. And then okay, so that looks pretty squared up. I'm gonna hit next. And what we've had this is 50 and 50, 50, and finish. And there you go. So what was skewed and would not have come in here perfectly came in pretty much spot on. So that's how you do that. So if you have an image, a scanned image or an image taken with your phone and it's at a strange perspective, you would do that. So I'm going to show you one more time just because this does come in really handy. It really does. So choose your perspective picture next, and then you're going to choose that. That turns those markings red. And then I'm going to get close. I'm going to drag these to what's close. And then I'm going to use my zoom. I wish there was a way. Oh, there is. If you click on it and draw a box. I just realized that. I was like, why wasn't this working? Okay, so you're going to drag that and we're going to put that exactly on that corner. Oops. This one's corner. This one's corner. And then your last corner. Oops. And there you go. And as you can tell, it's straightened it up. So it no longer looks like that. It's a straight image. Next, again, and finish. And it's perfect. It's spot on. So that's how you can take a non-perfect picture and adjust its skew. Okay. I think that's it, guys. We've gone over pretty much everything. Again, if you wanted to hide, so let's say you were working on this and you had this all crossed out. So hold on, let's do this and let's put a bunch of crosses in here. I know they're blue and not pink, but it's fine. I just want to put some in here. Okay, and let's say that underneath this was where you were supposed to put your French knots. So there was a symbol for a French knot, and it was hidden under these. You could go to your home tab and you could do hide crosses, and then you could come back in here and put your French knots. Oops, that's not going to work. Let's add another color real quick. And we'll just do this green. Okay. And we'll add our French knots. Just pretending that they're here. And then we could come back home and undo that. And then it would have your crosses with your French knots on top of them. Okay, guys, that is the cross stitch module. It is a lot of fun. We will actually get more into this when we do digitizing because we will incorporate the two. When we start the digitizing after the last lesson, so lesson 12 is going to be getting to know the digitizing module. Once we hit that, once lesson 12 is done, lesson 13 will not be lesson 13. It will be learn to digitize and a specific project. So the first one we may do is a zipper bag. Zipper bags are a lot of fun. People go out and buy designs all the time and add their own designs to it. But I'm going to teach you how to create an actual zipper bag. So it will switch when we switch to the digitizing aspect of it and actually creating projects. It'll switch between just seeing my computer and seeing the outside or seeing a live or me, I guess, so that you can see exactly what we're doing. Because a lot of times we're going to be measuring things, we're going to be cutting things or doing specific things to show you how to get into that digitizing. So our final lesson, lesson 12, getting to know our mySewnet software. Lesson 12 will be the final getting to know. And then we will dive deep into actually creating projects, editing projects, and building on something that you actually learn how to create something that you're going to want to stitch out. Right now, nothing that we're doing is really stitch out worthy. But once we start that digitizing aspect of the lessons, it's gonna be switch to being full on digitizing. Okay, guys. Hope you enjoyed today's video. This is really a fun module, so I do recommend playing with it and seeing everything that it can do. And I will see you next time. I know that I'm a week behind. I'm going to go ahead and upload the digitizing lesson on Sunday. So today is Friday. No, it's Thursday. Today's Thursday, so this Sunday, so in just a few days, I will do the digitizing video. And then next Thursday, we will start with, if you really want to learn how to digitize, this is where I will teach it to you. And